Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Motor City Mad Mouse Show. My name is Scott Morganroth. Pleased to be joined by
Stefan Andreasson.
And Stefan, welcome to the big show. First of all, how long have you been doing these tour guides?
Well, I've been doing this now for 9 years. I was a teacher for 46 years, teaching English and German. But now that I had to retire because I turned 70, why not do something else? And I love teaching, and when I'm guiding, I'm just teaching. And this is just one of these tours, the Golden Circle Tour, where we take our guests from Reykjavik out to the hot springs in Haukadalur, Strokkur, the erupting one, the old geyser is there, and we go to the Gullfoss, the waterfall, and then to this area here in Þingvellir, the Parliament Plains, where Parliament was founded in the year 930.
Yeah, why don't you give us an overall summary of what this area is like? I know we've talked about a lot of the other things in some of our many videos, but maybe you can provide more clarification to our audience.
Okay. The area here is the Rift Valley between the two tectonic plates, the North American plate on the left-hand side and the Eurasian plate over on the other side of the lake. And this is the Rift Valley that we're standing in between the tectonic plates. This wall here on the left-hand side, it's the eastern edge of the North American tectonic plate. And this is the only place on Earth where we can see the Mid-Atlantic Ridge on land. Otherwise, it's at the bottom of the ocean. And here in Þingvellir, the Parliament Plains, Iceland, we established our parliament in the year 930. 50 years after the settlers arrived in Iceland, we established our parliament here, and down in the distance, where we have the flag flying, that's where the session was held. The law speaker would stand there, the most prominent chief, and talk to the other chiefs sitting on the left-hand side of the path in a man-made slope that we have there. And the chiefs, they would have their tents here in the canyon. The ordinary Joe would have his tent out in the fields where we didn't have shelter from the southeasterly winds and rain. The chiefs had their shelter in here in the canyon.
Unbelievable, it really is. I hate to use the analogy East Germany versus West Germany, but it almost seems like there's a little bit of a parallel between the two, doesn't there?
I mean, of course, the chiefs, they were the most important ones. They were the rich ones, the powerful ones. The ordinary Joe just was the ordinary Joe.
Right. Interesting way of looking at it. So let's talk about the population in Iceland. How many are actually Icelanders and how many are outside of them?
Well, we are 390,000 people living on the island. The inhabitants of Iceland, 390,000. About 20% of them, about 80,000, are not of Icelandic origin. Okay. So 310,000 are of Icelandic origin. And these people have come here, refugees from all over the world, from the Ukraine, from Syria, from Senegal, from Venezuela, and Africa, countries there, and people from Eastern Europe just trying to find a better way of life.
Okay, and give me a little bit more of an explanation about Reykjavik. I know we haven't spent a lot of time in there. I know we've been around the outskirts, but it's the biggest city, obviously, in Iceland.
Well, Reykjavik and vicinity has 2/3 of the population of the island living in the area. So 240,000 living in that area. So out in the country, you've been to Akureyri. Right. There we have 22,000 inhabitants. In Ísafjörður we have around 3,500 inhabitants. So much smaller communities than Reykjavik. Reykjavik is the only big city in Iceland.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of interesting things about it. It's just been neat the way you've been able to take us around the whole general area, show us the falls like we saw earlier, the geysers, and so forth. And, when people come up to Iceland, I've heard a lot of people say one of the reasons that we move up here is to get away from the politics, from everything. Is that true? Is that what a lot of people like to do, is just get away from all the hustle and bustle of all the nonsense going on in the world?
I mean, in Iceland we have all the politics as well, and all kinds of battles between groups of people wanting to get their things done and their candidates elected. It's just similar to any other country, similar to any other city. But of course, Reykjavik, because it's by far the biggest city in Iceland, everyone has to come to Iceland, to come to Reykjavik for all the services. And the biggest hospitals are in Reykjavik. So people come to Iceland, come to Reykjavik and move back home when they've made their things done.
I was watching a Ronald Reagan movie, and he actually went out there and had a conference up here in Reykjavik, I think, with the Soviet Union. Do you have any recall about that?
I mean, in October 1986, Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan met in the Höfði House in Reykjavik, and they had a meeting there for 2 days, and they were discussing the end of the Cold War. There was no declaration of Reykjavik or anything like that. And on the Sunday morning, when they were finishing the meeting, they had announced that they would be out at 10:30. And all live coverage, all the TV cameras were glued to the doorknob on the Höfði House. Yes, they said they were going to finish at 10:30, but they're not yet out. 11:30, they have not yet come out. So we expect them to come out any minute now. 2:30, they're still not out. Something must be happening inside. 3:30, nothing is happening. We don't know, but something must be happening. They'll come out. And it took them 7 hours to come out. And when they finally came out, they just waved. No press conference, nothing, no declaration. But 3 years later, the Berlin Wall fell. And 2 years after that, the Soviet Union crumbled. So something came out of that meeting, definitely.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up to you. Here in Iceland, you talk about Reykjavik and that particular meeting, and having watched it. So Iceland had a really big role in what would eventually shape the future of how things would end up going.
Oh, yes, that's true. And when we had this request, this talk about a meeting between Reagan and Gorbachev, no country was willing to plan it because there was simply not enough time. But the Icelanders, we just said, "Þetta reddast. We'll make it, we'll manage, we'll find a solution." And in 3 or 4 weeks, they managed to set up the meeting, and they came and had the meeting, and we had this great outcome.
What is the medical care like here in Iceland?
Medical care, we have state medical care, and if you need to go to the hospital, you go to the hospital, no questions asked. And when you go to visit the doctor, you have to pay a nominal fee, $10 per visit, until you've reached a certain limit, and after that it's free. And for pensioners like me, we don't have to pay anything, and kids up to the age of 18 don't have to pay anything else.
Yeah, you said something about pensions where, 4.1% went towards it, then and then the employer?
I pay 4% of my salary into my pension fund,
Yeah.
and the employer pays 11.5% on top of that into my pension fund.
Wow.
So every month I paid 4%, 15.5% of my salary were paid into the pension fund for me.
All right, 2 other questions. What are the biggest sports here in Iceland?
Soccer and Olympic handball.
And finally, for me, this has been a bucket list item to come up to Iceland. But if you're trying to get people to come up here, what are the biggest things that people have to look forward to Iceland that they should put on their bucket list?
Well, if you want to come to Iceland, come to Iceland. There are so many things to see, so many things to watch. Glaciers, lakes, lava fields, the movement of the tectonic plates here where we are now. do the Golden Circle, and if you have time, travel around Iceland. 10 days would be sufficient.
Well, we managed to pull a lot off in 3 on the cruise. Do you find that the cruise ships really contribute to a lot of what you're able to do?
I mean, of course, I mean, tourism in Iceland is so important. 35% of our revenue comes from tourism, so it really means a lot. Even though mass tourism is maybe not the thing we want to see, getting 3,000 people into a 3,000 people town like Ísafjörður, or even 3 cruise liners with 8,000 people visiting, that can be very difficult. But why not? And if we do it, if we do a good job, then why not?
What tour are we on again?
The Golden Circle Tour.
Well, there you go. So you gave it all to us today in, 7-8 hours, and
Yes.
I certainly enjoyed the tour, Stefan, and thank you very much for being on the Motor City Mad Mouse Show. This is on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, so if you haven't subscribed to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, please hit the red subscribe button. Stefan, thank you very much for joining us on the Motor City Mad Mouse Show, and I know you've educated a lot of people looking to come
Good.
here. Thank you.
Super. Welcome.
She's just